Welcome back, YouTube, to another episode here at WILDMAN Lifts. I'm your host, WILDMAN. Now on today's episode, I'm heading over to the gym where I'm going to work out my shoulders. Now a lot of people ask me, who is my favorite strongman, right? Like, how did I get into strongman? Why do I believe in strongman? Who was the person that actually got me interested in strongman? So I thought while I was working out my shoulders today, I can explain who my favorite strongman is and why. So let's pop in and let's see what I did today. Now, when I was getting into strongman, the top 3 competitors in which anybody could have taken it was Hafthor Bjornsson, Brian Shaw, and Eddie Hall. All 3 from different countries. Brian Shaw and Hafthor Bjornsson are probably the biggest people on the planet. Hafthor is 6'9" and weighs 450 pounds when he's competing. Brian Shaw also weighs 450 pounds and is just an inch shorter, being 6'8". Both, ironically, played basketball for their countries growing up. Nobody was able to compete with their height and their weight and just how strong they were naturally. Then you add training to that and technique, and you become a very dangerous individual. Now, Eddie Hall is 6'3", and he was actually able to get close to 450 pounds, the same as Brian Shaw and Hafthor Bjornsson, when he was competing. The difference is when Brian Shaw and Hafthor made 450 pounds, it wasn't really affecting their health that much. That's why they were able to compete for a very long time. Eddie Hall, on the other hand, was suffering major health issues due to his height and his BMI being way beyond the scale. Eddie Hall recalls actually his physician telling him that if he didn't quit strongman and if he didn't quit gaining mass like he was at walking around at 450 pounds, he was going to die. But Eddie Hall did not care. Eddie Hall had a desire to win the world's strongest man at least once. And not only did Eddie Hall want to win the world's strongest man once, he wanted to do it against the best people in the world. And no doubt, Hafthor Bjornsson and Brian Shaw were the absolute best, probably that the world has ever seen. Now, when Eddie Hall was training to compete against these elite athletes, he came up with his own style of training. And because of that, that's why he's actually my favorite strongman. It's because of the fact he came up with a style of training that was going to give somebody with a significant disadvantage the advantage in competition. I base a lot of my strongman and most of my strength building programs around Eddie Hall's style and ideology when it comes to training. Because I'm 5'8", 5'9" on a good day, and I had a very small frame growing up. I mean, my body literally does not want to be more than 150 pounds. That's just my genetics. So in order for me to get to my weight and to get to my strength, I adopted Eddie Hall's style of training. And as a result, I was able to get to where I'm at today, and I couldn't be happier. So in my mind, Eddie Hall not only came up and pioneered a new way to strength train for us little guys, but he also had the heart of a champion, because he was willing to die to win World's Strongest Man and to prove that he could beat the best in the world. He also had the discipline to walk away. He knew that he wasn't going to be able to carry on that weight forever. And so once he won, he didn't stick around for another year, as competitive as he was. Instead, he focused on making movies and becoming a social media influencer and doing TV shows. And he got to spend a lot more time with his family as well. But even at Eddie Hall's current weight, which is like 350 pounds, he's still a phenomenal athlete. During National Geographic, he was able to compete against some of the world's strongest men again in that TV show. And for a guy who doesn't compete anymore and is retired, not only was he keeping up with them, he was beating them in a lot of events. And every once in a while, he likes to pop back in to strongman competitions, and he'll compete in a few events. And he usually does very well, or he's winning. And he's not even trying anymore. And 350 pounds is a good, healthy weight for him. He's able to fight for boxing and for MMA And a lot of his social media is evolving around being healthy. So that's why Eddie Hall is my favorite strongman of all time. Now, if I had to pick somebody who's currently competing, it would have to be, I mean, there's only 2 strongmen on the planet right now that are really going to rival it, with a dark horse being Hafthor Bjornsson because he just came out of retirement. But Mitchell Hooper and Tom Stoltman are the young guys right now that are getting it done. Mitchell Hooper is phenomenally strong, and he's not as big as Hafthor Bjornsson or some of these other big guys back in the day. But he's able to be an incredible athlete. He's able to move quickly. He's able to lift heavy, and he's also very educated and super smart. So he does a lot of YouTube segments where he talks about his training, or he talks about tips and tricks of how to get better at certain lifts. But he is definitely probably my current favorite modern strongman. Not to knock Tom Stoltman, but when I see Mitchell Hooper is developing his own style of training, whereas Tom seems to be kind of following somebody else's advice, right? And so is Hafthor. Hafthor goes off an Australian coach's advice, so you really can't compare the two. So there you have it. The shoulders got a very good workout today, and I wasn't trying to go too heavy. I was just mainly trying to go for reps and for conditioning. But while we were doing that, we were also learning more about strongman and why certain strongmen are my favorite. Hope everybody enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Thank you.